All right. Good afternoon, everyone. How are y'all doing?
Good.
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 Yeah.
So I am thrilled to welcome everyone today. We are doing a profile author interview with Miss Chelsie Bennett and the honors English class. So 1010 students, welcome Molly McCray and Marquice Baker. And then Jada Wilder and Denzel Wilcox are 1020. So they have been with me for almost a year now. And now we're going to give it over to Miss Bennett and let her welcome all of us, right? She's the main event today, so I want her to introduce herself for a couple of minutes.
Well, hello everyone. Thank y'all for being here with me. I see it as a large opportunity. I'm really glad to be speaking with you all today. My name is Chelsie Bennett. I like to call myself a teacher who decided to write her way to freedom. And I started blogging as a hobby, and I'm really grateful that it's slowly becoming monetized and really opening a door for a new career for me. And I'm really excited to be talking to you all about my work today. So thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for blessing us with your presence. And we are all so fortunate, and all the 1010 students who get to watch this and learn from you all are as well. So Jada, I'm going to kick it over to you since you are someone who had experience with this last semester. What are profiles? What 1010 students are learning about right now?
Okay, so from my understanding of a profile can be basically a synopsis of a person, place, or event that happened in history, and you kind of just kind of go over the experience and the details of what the event, person, or place is about and what it stands for.
Exactly. And then you and Denzel last semester got the opportunity when we did profiles unit to do kind of like a unique experience, right? Everyone got to pick their own documentary. And so I know you were telling me about an interesting one, Jada, that you're interested in now. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it? It was the slut walk era that you were talking about last week. I don't know if she froze. It's okay. So Denzel, I know last semester you got to do yours on university. It was about basketball. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yours?
It was football. It was called Last Chance U. And if you're not familiar with Last Chance U, it's about some college, D1 college athletes that play football. They mess up at their college, like with the law or the justice system, and they get kicked off the team. So they have to go to a JUCO school, which is like a smaller college, to work their way back up to get more D1 offers. And like in season 3, it was kind of like located in a small town called Independence, Kansas. And like their profile, they had like a little parade in their little small town, and that will bring like fans and the players that played on the football team. That just brought people together so they could meet their fans.
That sounded interesting. I know for people who love sports, I am totally ignorant about that. And then Jada, I think you had a Wi-Fi connection a second ago, but do you want to talk about your profile? I know the slut walk era is the one you were saying.
Yes, it was going out for a second. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So I recently had to do a kind of just a summary of what the slut walk was and where it started. So it started in Toronto. The first one was in Toronto, but this specific article was the one in 2008 in South Africa. Yeah, South Africa, and it had men and women in it. So it was basically a kind of a protest about how men have this patriarchy mindset to where they feel like they can, I guess, objectify women based off of what they wear, and basically they just want to fight against that idea. And they were kind of just going off of this idea of like, we should not have to wear we shouldn't have to cover up. We should just tell men how to act and tell them to stop raping and, stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, that was basically what it was. And it was just kind of fighting for the equality of women. So.
Well, thank y'all for your examples. And they did really good last semester when they wrote their own profiles. So now Molly and Marquice are in 1010 this semester, and they just started this unit 2 profiles. So we got to talk about the 2 different profiles that people can write. So one is just a participant, right? And you might just be helping out, doing something to get like a one-on-one experience, right, with the person. Like today, you all are getting to participate in an interview with Miss Bennett. And then another type, right, is just an observer. So you might go to a business or to an organization, right, and just observe a person and write about them, right? So it might not be as much of an inside look because you're not necessarily talking to the person. So I'm going to kick it to Molly and Marquice for a second. Are there any types of profiles? I know, Molly, you mentioned one last week that you might be interested in watching when y'all get to do your documentary choice of your profile.
Yeah, I know one for sure. I just got done watching a TV show about the Unabomber and serial killer. Oh, I love it so much. I love all those kind of horror crime things.
Mm-hmm. And I know we talked about at the beginning of, right, profile units that just the word profile in general, right? It can have like the criminal aspect to it. People might be profiled, racially profiled, either at the airport, right? Stereotyping them as a terrorist, or when we talked about our Tupac example, right? Like police profiling people on the streets, like walking while black, right? So there can be that way, right? Or there could be a profile that is done from more like a criminal mind, CSI, if someone's missing, or if you're trying to find a serial killer, similar to what Molly was talking about. But then there's profiles, right? Like what we're doing today on a person, place, event, or activity. So Marquice, did you have another type of profile documentary that you might be interested in watching or talking about soon?
Yeah, there's one. I watched it, but I need to watch it again actually. It's James Baldwin, I Am Not Your Negro. That one. I'm rewatching that one. It's some things that I missed, that I'm going back and I'm rewatching. And so I would say that one. And it's he will be profiling America as a whole. Yes. So I'll say James Baldwin. I Am Not Your Negro.
I was going to say James Baldwin is always worthy of a reread or a rewatch now that we get the opportunity to see a documentary about him.
Times as you can reread it.
Yes.
Read it.
All right. So now we are going to go to Miss Bennett's first article. And so we are going to go ahead and open up with the How My Abortions Changed My Life. And I know Marquice is the first one who's going to kick us off. So I'm going to screen share the document, and then you are going to ask Miss Bennett our first questions for her that you all prepared as journalist interviewers.
Okay. Are we ready?
Yes, sir. Tell me where to go.
You would go down. She was talking about situationships, and I believe the lack of respect. I could not find the page.
Okay. You can just ask her your question. I'm sure she'll be able to tell us where it is in the article.
Okay. In the article, you speak on, the lack of respect, the lack of self-love, the lack of really you guys not knowing each other in the situationships and situationships on how you guys should be together. It shouldn't be friends with benefits. I believe it's actually right.
Yeah, it's right. I don't want to interrupt you, but yeah,
So,
that's it right there.
With that being stated, my question to you was, it seemed like you weren't in agreement with situationships and you feel like they were a bad thing. So I wanted to ask you, how is that a bad thing? Because in my perspective and my experience being young and dealing with older couples, they learn what they like and what they need in the actual committed relationships through situationships. So my question to you, what is your perspective on situationships and how are they a bad thing?
That's a great question. They aren't a bad thing.
Mm.
So I want to make that clear. And I'm excited that we're doing this. Just as a preface, first of all, I want you all to be really comfortable with me. You can see what I have on. I'm comfortable. And so I want you all to feel comfortable with me. And later, I'm excited to hear about what your different career endeavors are. And so I'm all for the professionalism. And I know it goes along with your class and your curriculum, but also like, I think a big part of professionalism is being yourself too. So just feel comfortable to relax with me. I want to preface with that. But one thing you might not know about me is that there's nothing I hate more in the world, and I don't like using the word hate. There's nothing I hate more than being misunderstood. Oh, it bothers me. But I understand that it happens. So let me be clear and say that I don't think there's anything wrong with the situationship as long as you're on the same page. I think that friends with benefits, or F buddies, as I like to call them, I've had a lot of those situations, but I think that I'm in a space now where it's just being mindful and being intentional. So I agree with you in your perspective that it does help you to figure out what you want in a long-term commitment. But I think the path that I took, and I think it works for different people, but my path was more so figuring out like by mistakes, if you will. And I was just going into it with mindlessly. There was no intention behind it. So I think it's fine to be messing with somebody to court each other. I think that that's a beautiful thing. I think that dating is amazing. Obviously, I've done a lot of it to have written this, but I'm in a space where I feel like everything should be intentional. Do nothing without intention.
Mm. I would also ask, with that being said, so not just in relationships, but in overall life, right? You say make sure you go on something with intent and without. Make sure you go on something with intent. I would ask, I'm one of the go with the flow kind of person, personally. So with that being said, I go into things, blindly.
Yeah.
And I feel though, as I go into those things blindly, that I find light. I find light. I understand the light, and I understand the situation. It seems better when I go into it blindly. And I say that to say the reason why, because I feel as if the situation makes me grow. It makes other people grow. So my question to you is, what would you say to people who are like me, who go into things blindly and really without intent? You just do it just cause.
I'm you. So I'm speaking from experience. I have walk by faith on my foot. It's the only tattoo I have right now. And it says walk by faith. And at the time I was a very religious person. And that is about walking into things blindly and just trusting. And I still live by that. I trust. But there's a difference in walking into something and saying, hey, what comes of this comes of this. And walking into something and saying, here's what I think I desire. Let me flow and feel my way through that. Because I think that just as important as it is to flow with things, you also have to know what you won't accept. That's not okay, because the flow that I was on was, okay, it's cool, it's fine. It's because I've always been that person where I empathize. And it's like, it's fine. And sometimes it really wasn't fine. So I think it's all about finding the balance. But my advice, or the only thing I would say is, I am you. I feel you and I understand you. So I understand that my words can be cutting, but I'm talking to myself when I'm writing, always.
And speaking on like relationships and all that, like towards the bottom of page 5, you say, again, we had no plans of being together, and each of us had endured some type of separation or absence of a parent growing up. So with that, I asked, like, what was your household like growing up as a kid?
My household was very Geminian, and by that, the root of that word is Gemini. So two sides, just very. I speak a lot about balance now because I lived in two different extremes, and so my parents were married when I was born, but they divorced really early, and so I lived in multiple households for most of my childhood. Um, and while I think that it's really helped me and determined my path, I can also see how for many years I sat in the darker side of that and didn't allow myself to flourish. But yeah, my parents had joint custody of me, but along with that, it's just a village of people that I was raised by. And then when I was 14, my father was killed. And so my time split between households then became me just being primarily raised by my mom, who was a single mother, for years anyway, when you're separated. But that's the general scope of my household.
Yeah.
My condolences.
Thank you.
How did that play into effect of like why you couldn't really date or like get in relationships?
How did my household play a role in like my relationships?
Separation of absence, like for both of y'all.
So when I speak about the different extremes, and you all may or may not be able to relate, being raised by multiple people, whether you're in the household with mother and grandmother, or mother over here, father over here, or aunt, whomever, you're raised by different personalities. And often when I speak to people who have been raised with both parents in the household, you can always pinpoint which parent is stricter, which parent is more lenient. But somehow in the same household, there's that balance there. Whereas when I was with my dad, it was much more, for lack of better terms, free. And neither is bad, but much more disciplined here in my mother's home. Yeah. And so I think that separation, I hate to say abandonment, but I think that part of that is abandonment issues because my father did die so unexpectedly. So I was preparing to go to his house. And so it's just that abandonment, that lack of commitment. So many of those things play into how we interact in our everyday lives and really in every relationship, I believe.
All right. Thank you so much. That is a segue sort of to the next discussion that Jada wanted to ask you. So I'm going to scroll down. Jada, you said it was around page 6 and 7 about caution, boundaries, different types of relationships. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to let you take it away. You can tell me if I need to go down or.
It should be like 3. Under your pain in the hands of the wrong people.
Right.
So scroll down a little bit more. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So my question with this section was I understand like the trauma with, the friends and like how they kind of reacted to your like what you were going through. It wasn't what you expected. So how did this situation how did you go through your next friendships or the friendships that you kindled after that? How did you have more caution, or did you have more caution when you entered those friendships and relationships based off of this experience with those friends?
So it's really interesting. I just published this a year ago, just to be clear. Published this a year ago. The actual events took place in 2017. And so we're now almost 4 years out. That's wild. Almost 4 years out from the situation. But until I published this last year, these people were still in my lives. And this, honestly, me expressing my truth was what forced me out of those relationships. I forgive. to a fault, I think that some people would say. And so I finally, and mind you, this situation I was able to talk about with friends before and just say like, you know, I was able to confront them about everything that went down, and we were able to talk about it. And they said, well, it wasn't like, essentially they were saying that it wasn't malicious intent behind it. I forgave the situation. I let it go. But when I wrote this, the boundaries that I should have had in place then, I was kind of forced into. And so I will say that, and I think your question is kind of stemming around boundaries and like how to create them with friendships and relationships.
Yes, ma'am.
It's tough. I'm not going to sit here and I don't have any lies for you if you can't tell. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. Creating boundaries has been really tough for me because I do feel and I empathize, and I often treat others how I want to be treated. And again, some people can look at that to a fault, but I'm realizing that as I progress, it's necessary. And it's really one of those things where, and kind of like Marquice, that's correct. What's your name? Baker? Like he was saying, the flowing with things. So my intention in writing this was, I just need to get out how I feel because I'm a thinking person. I'm in my head constantly. Very bright, very smart. I've always been praised for that, but I can be really detached when it comes to emotions. And so this, in my writing endeavors, was really me being able to dive into what's going on the inside and really being able to process these things for me and, you know, come out on the other side to now help other people get there. So I think that many of my boundaries have been forced. But because they have been forced in this way, now I'm really intentional about creating them, and not just with other people, but with myself. Creating the boundaries with yourself are most important because however you treat yourself and however you see yourself sets the precedence for those other relationships.
Thank you so much. That, again, word self is yet another great transition or segue to something Molly wanted to ask you about, a quote that you had about a true friend to yourself. So Molly, do you want to let me know where that was or where you need me to go? Oh, I think it's right here. True friend to me.
Yeah. Okay. So the quote is, "But at least now my eyes are open." And I kind of know that you didn't really tell your mom that much about your abortion for about 2 years. And I know that you back with her home and been with her for a while, kind of a quarantine and everything. And I'm just wondering that after up to your mom, if you'll come closer, and that maybe that you have found a true friend with her.
Okay, let me clarify. You said, I think it's going out a little bit. You said after, essentially, how's my relationship with my mom?
Yeah, if you have found a true friend within her too, after opening up about your abortion and being in quarantine with her.
Okay, my mom is my rock. She always has been. Yeah, and you see, that's the one person I get emotional about. My mom is my rock, and she's always been my best friend. I think that because we've dealt with so much together, and a lot of times when you do have those people who you're with, I think sometimes when you're in close proximity, it's hard to separate the love and those strong feelings because, I don't know, I just feel like love is the greatest emotion. I think that when you do things out of love, the impact is amazing, or terrible, depending on, where you're coming from in your gut. But in terms of my relationship with my mom, I think our relationship is always progressing and it's always evolving. But the biggest thing for me has been separating, that's my mom, from that's a human, that's a woman. And so I understand now why she did what she did. And even if I don't understand all of the way, I can empathize with it, because I mean, even though I had an abortion, you know, kind of technically I'd be a single mom right now. And so I've still been able to go through the process with it, because even though I don't have a child physically with me, my body went through the motions. And there's a lot I didn't say in this blog. I focused really relationally on, relationally, so with myself and with others, but didn't really dive into what happens to the body and how that transforms you. And so with my mom, number one, she brought me into this world. So even though I express these things and I'm expressing my emotions, it's real to feel things. But at the end of the day, she is my best friend. She brought me here.
Thank you so much. So I know it appears from her blogs, right, that she is a very open, vulnerable person, but I'm glad that she just stated that, right? Because I remember very much so when we both worked together, she's very, very introverted, right, and extroverted with certain people when she's very comfortable, but she is not the type to tell all of her business or put it out there, right? So when these things were published, it was like, wow. A lot of people it resonated with. But I wanted to ask you, Ms. Bennett, if you would feel comfortable, the students who are going to get to watch this, right, that are not here with us live, they, I'm sure, might have a bunch of amazing questions they might have for you about your article, How My Abortions Changed My Life. And I was going to let them in the moment right now during the video, if they would want to pause and then come up with a question in the chat that they might want to ask you. And would you mind if I emailed those to you and you might be able to have time to answer a few of them?
I would love to.
Okay. Well,
I would love to.
All right. Well, thank you. And if y'all are watching right now, right, go ahead and pause and think of a question that might have been burning during the interview or the reading. All right. So we are coming back. If you were paused and you are asking Ms. Bennett a question, and now we are transitioning to her next reading, we're going to do it live, right? So in class, the 3 things I learned when I got home. All right, so we're gonna pause the video so that we all can read this. And now we are back. So, all right. I know that was a very impactful read, and right, something very close to home. Right now, it feels like just last summer, right? So many things have changed since 2020. Now it's like 2020 part 2, but it has hopefully helped a lot of people have evolutions in their life or come to Jesus or whatever you believe in, right? Moments. Reflection. And I know this piece is huge about reflection. So again, we are still here with Ms. Bennett and our honors English students. And I know Denzel, in the first paragraph, I'm going to go ahead and open up the next piece, 3 things I learned when I got home. You had a question for Ms. Bennett.
Yeah, the first sentence had caught me. It was said, after leaving my job without a plan, denying countless job offers because they didn't feel like a fit. Like, how come you were not able to like keep teaching and write these stories like simultaneously, like until you got recognition for your articles?
The short answer is I just couldn't. And sometimes I wish people would just say that. I can't.
Yeah.
I had, like I said, thinking about life very early on, I had always been juggling more so than balancing, juggling many different things. I always had my hand in so many things. I have so many different interests. I am a very go with the flow person, as Marquice is. But essentially leaving my job is without a plan, without another job lined up, is a consequence of that. And so while I am now in a space where I don't think I've ever been happier, I was crying about it earlier. I don't think I've ever been happier, but also I think the fact that I left after a promotion, so literally like I was moving up, I left on a high note in my job. I think it shows just how much I couldn't. And there are other things that I was dealing with. So mind you, as Ms. Hanson has told you, I'm private. I'm really introverted. So even though when I'm speaking to you, I'm an open book, most of the times if you don't ask, I'm listening to you. You know what I mean? I have those few people who are the safe spaces for me, but I tend to be really introverted and really private, and I speak on things after I process them. And so that's what all of this writing was for me. And now I juggle so many more things, and I still write every day. I write every day. I haven't published in a while, but I'm writing constantly and just allowing that to evolve. But this was me just evolving and expressing my feelings. So a lot of people go to therapy. This was my therapy for myself. Or when people deal with addiction, they have to go to 12-step programs. This was that for myself.
Molly, I know you had on page 3 a question for her. It was around about the part where it said, "Ain't that about a bench?" But I wanted you to elaborate on what part you wanted to ask her.
Okay, yeah, I actually have 2 questions from page 3. One kind of relates to more of coexisting. So I think that's kind of what you're talking about, learning to coexist with your mom. So the quote is at the bottom of page 3. It says, "She didn't approve of my decision, but that's not her purpose in my life, nor is it mine to try and make her approve. Her job is to love me for who I am, and my job is to love her for who she is. From there, we learn to coexist." Now, I know it can kind of be easy to coexist with your mom because she's more accepting to your beliefs and your practices, you know, of being a spiritualist. And I know you were a Christian before back in college, and I kind of just want to know if coexisting with your mom and kind of just with society has been any different from when you were a Christian from now, kind of being more of a spiritualist and knowing yourself a little bit better.
Honestly, I don't think that it's any different in people probably perceive me the same way. I perceive myself differently. And I think that's what's been biggest for me. So in this is the section about radical self-acceptance. And so with me being heavy in the church, I used to love going to church, kind of like I love writing in the morning. So I love those practices, and I love and I respect people who are religious. I respect people who are spiritual. I respect people who just love peace, because I love all of those things too. But I think that the biggest thing is just the self-awareness now. And I think sometimes when you are, and some people may call it awakening, when you're becoming more woke, and I think people label that differently. I think for me, that kind of started in college because I was able to get away from home and kind of dive into educational research and psychological research. And so it was opening my mind to things that were normal for me at home, and realizing, oh no, this is trauma-based. This is a coping mechanism, Chelsea. This is not healthy. Oh, you're anxious. You're extremely anxious. You know, different things like that. I think that now, because I'm aware of them, it's just me perceiving myself differently and being able to move through that. But I understand others haven't had the privilege or took the risk like I did, because I don't necessarily think I had the privilege. I didn't have the money saved up to do what I did. But I took the risk of really diving into me. And so, and I've always been really accepting of different beliefs, but I think that's more uncomfortable for other people because I don't fit in boxes. So for me, I don't think that coexisting has been harder. I think that as I'm more comfortable in who I am and everything I believe, because I think that Buddha's great. I think that Jesus is great. I think that whoever you need is great. I think that all of those people existed and they have paved a way for each of us. I have Malcolm X, President Obama, and Martin Luther King on my shirt, and they all have different beliefs, but somehow they have all progressed and provided a route for the different pockets of being African American and what that means. So again, I don't think it's been hard for me to coexist, but I think it's just been hard because the people around me that I wanted to grow with, I think it's kind of hard for them to see the truth sometimes, because if you only have one vision of who a person is, it's tough.
Again, you always say the right word right at the next moment to get us to segue. You said a vision, which kind of transitions us to mirror, which is Jada's next topic. So everyone is a mirror. What did you want to ask Miss Bennett about that, Jada?
Okay, so my question was mainly about your mom and your relationship with your mom. I know it's kind of similar to Molly's question, but I wanted to specifically ask you if there were any steps for you and your mom to get to the point that y'all are right now, because I know that can be really difficult, especially being at home together all the time. Is there any tips or anything that you can say that made y'all to get to this point of an acceptance of each other? Yeah, that's basically my question.
I will say that I think my mom has always accepted me. Again, I think it was just me having to process things. And I do have lots of tips for that. So even in thinking about, as Molly said, being a spiritualist, and I don't even like to label myself as that. I don't really like labels. I'm that weird person because I think that we are so much. So when saying that everyone is a mirror, there are pieces of the reason that we're all sitting here together right now. There's a reason. So when I get to ask you all questions about yourselves, I'm sure I'm going to find out why. And even I think about why each of you are asking the questions that you're asking, or why each of you are watching the shows that you watch. Because I know about Last Chance U. I know about the Slut Walk. You know what I mean? The Unabomber. James Baldwin. His picture was right inside my classroom door. Ms. Hanson knows. We all are happy. We happen to be sitting here talking about this. So I think that she's always accepted me because, again, she brought me into this world. So there was some type of acceptance there. And I think that it's tough, number one, because I look like her, but I look like my dad. And even though I lost him, she lost him too. She had him before I did. And regardless of what their relationship status was, there was love there. And so I think that when we both had the transition of living apart to living together, essentially, I think that in this part of my life, I'm able to process all of the feelings that I detached from in high school when that happened. So I do have tips and tricks, but I would love to talk to you personally, especially if that's something, that you want to know. But yes, it's a lot of processing. It's deep rooted stuff.
Yes, I was going to say, if you are allowed into Miss Bennett's circle, she is a very relationship driven person. So while she did label herself the only label earlier as introverted, she is very, very deep relationally. So Jada, please, she doesn't just say things lightly. If you have those questions, reach out to her because she will definitely speak to you on it and give you beyond just tips. It'll just be like wisdom piled into your lap. Maybe
Let's have a conversation.
Yep. All right. So then, Marquice, we began with you, sir, and now we are going to let you take us away on final takeaways and a question that you had at the end for Miss Bennett.
Okay. Before I get to my final question on the final takeaways, especially, I would like to ask. You spoke on peace.
Mm-hmm.
You spoke on peace, and you also spoke on fearing God in this article. And you said, I'm trying to remember the actual quote, but you said you shouldn't fear God. And I believe it was something along the lines, you shouldn't fear God. Now, I would ask you, why shouldn't you? I feel as if you'll have, a lot of true Christians, I call, or true persons and true people, whoever in their faith may be, they have a fear in their God, kind of like a fear in a parent.
Mhm.
And I feel but they also have a peace within themselves, you know. So with that being said, I feel like you can't have peace without having some form of fear there
Ooh,
as as a
take it there, Marquise.
as a as an external enforcer. You can't have one. You need it for complete peace. Now with that being stated, I'll ask you, what's your take on that? Fearing God, fearing parents, fearing your parent even. You know, I feel you're supposed to have a healthy fear of your parents. So what's your take on that?
I think that having a fear of my parent had me hiding things.
Mm. But was it really a fear of your parent, or was it fear of fear of yourself? Because I would not, I don't want to say argue. I asked that, you know, your mother, for example, in the abortion knew. She
Right.
already, it seems she already knew. She
Right.
was just waiting to tell you. You said it yourself. Your mother accepted you.
Right.
So would you say it was a fear truly not of your mother, but of yourself? It was an idea we have of our parents in our head that's really not the case. Our parents are here to love, not to fight.
Exactly. And so I do think of, so for example, if we want to take it there, let's take it there. Um, I love that you used fearing God and fearing parents as a metaphor. I love that you put them side by side because and then talked about fear of self, because I think that's what the journey has been. And so in my Christian beliefs, it was very much so fear God. Yes, you love God too, but fear. Um, and so now that I've been able to go through certain things and realize what I can come out of, it's made me not fear myself and who I am. And so that has evolved my beliefs. But no, I don't. I think, I know we talk about healthy fear, and I will say that fear is healthy in the fact that it is an emotion. It is an emotion. And so it's healthy to acknowledge that you fear. But I don't think it's something that you should stay in. I think that there is a good bit of, anxiety and things that happen, but we call that excitement. The good bit of fear, I like to turn that into excitement. You know what I mean? Like I was crying before this because I was like, wow, I'm so excited to talk to them. Like I'm so excited that something that I just did to release is becoming so much more. But it wasn't that I was scared. It was just like, wow, this is really taking off. Whereas when I was pregnant, I was scared because of when I was interested in boys when I was younger, I was made to fear the consequences of what would happen if I loved someone. So for me, again, number one, I try my best not to control others' beliefs, because I can be really anxiety ridden. That can come out as control when I'm in an unhealthy space. So I don't, and I want to be clear that I hope I did not write "you shouldn't," because I try not to use that language. Um, but no, I don't. I think that you should do whatever you feel. Um, that is always my thing. Do what you feel. Um, and even in terms of flowing with things, I understand that. But for me, in terms of fearing God, I love God so much. I see God in me, and I love me. And I finally don't fear me, and that scares people. So there's an Erica Badu quote, and she says, most intellects do not believe in God, but they fear us just the same. And then there's also Mary Mary, gospel singers, and they sing about it's the God in me. Christian beliefs, free spiritual beliefs, they're saying the same thing. And so I think that, we put things differently. And even if we want to look at the roots of Christianity, I didn't want to go here. I didn't want to go here, but here we go. But if we look at the roots of it and how it started in America, for African Americans who were in slavery, especially in the South and where we are. Like, yes, Nashville is a city, but at the end of the day, look around at where we are. It's a Confederate state, and the fact that we still had someone blow up a block downtown on Christmas Day and it just disappeared from the news. These are the types of things that are rooted in what Christianity has been here. And while I still have a Bible, I still have a devotional with Bible verses, I have all of those things, I've just learned not to take the text literally. You know what I mean? So I think that's more where I am. I think that I respect people who still have those beliefs, but for me, I don't like to talk about fear because I think it hindered me and made me take, or not made me, but I felt like I should take the safe route every time because I feared. And so when I switch everything to I love, thank you, thank you, thank you, I love this versus, oh my God, I'm so scared, because then I'm going to keep attracting more scary things towards me.
I will also ask this.
Yeah, let's go. Keep coming.
So you say you just recently said that you love yourself so much, so now it's not a fear.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being stated, I ask that when I still say, you know, whether I don't believe it being an overwhelming fear where it's like, how do I want to word this? Okay. So it's not an overwhelming thing where it's like, oh, I fear what I'll do to others, or I fear what, because I could say that I'm a collective goal person. I'm not an individualistic person. For me personally, I'm not. I'll put my needs to side for the group. So with that being said, you having love for oneself so much,
Mm-hmm.
not fearing what others perceive you to be, not perceiving, not worried about really the external things that come and destroy your situation, because you're aware, you're prepared for yourself, as you should. Now, I would ask though, when getting so caught up in love with oneself, how do you balance that? Because you can get caught up in yourself so much that you forget the collective goal from whatever that may be. So how do you balance that? And I feel that's what that little fear that, you know, I feel us as human beings should have. So how do you balance that? Being so in love with oneself, it can mess up the individual goals. So how do you balance that? Yeah. I mean, it can mess up the collective goal. So how do you balance that?
I think it's just a matter of what you see the collective as. Who you see the collective as. And again, I told you, like, my biggest thing has been being misunderstood. And I think so much. So I'm like, wow, like, he's going to think this about me. He's going to think this about me. But I have to separate myself from Marquice thinks I don't care about people.
No, not that.
No, listen. I have to separate myself from that, because if, again, I love myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
But anxiety me and empathizing me is like, ooh, he's drilling me. Ooh, he's really trying to get to the core. Ooh, he's trying to, but I'm like, no, he just wants to understand, and that's his method. But I'll also, the same way in which I've learned that I'm going to be misunderstood, I know that sometimes in terms of like putting myself to the side, that was going against the collective goal. Because if I'm not feeding my needs, and I don't know if Ms. Hanson told you the type of teacher that I was, but even though I was introverted, I'm the furthest from going away from collective goal. I don't speak up until I absolutely have to. And I think that was what hindered me.
That's what I was going to say. When you get done, I was like, okay, Marquice, let her talk, and then I'm going to tell you.
Yeah. And I know you don't know me, so I was letting you, like, I'm going to answer it, and I'm patient. But I think that too speaks to people misunderstanding me.
I was going to say, kind of back towards Denzel's question earlier about why she could not continue teaching and writing at the same time, because what she truly needed to do, right, to fully get peace, to fully love herself, all those things, right, was to take care of Chelsie and to like reflect and do all of these things, right? And she said, right, it took courage, it took bravery. She didn't have like all these resources. She just jumped out on faith, right, and did this. But before that, very clearly, be very clear, she was always pouring into the collective. She was always pouring into the students. Like she had the most open classroom, and always would tell the students, like, this is your classroom. We're not trying to do some curriculum, right? We're not trying to like please other people. It's very comfortable. It's a safe space. It's like a mental and emotional haven, right? But with that taking care of them so much, she often was not taking care of herself, right? And pouring into herself as much. And so it becomes, right, like a burnout. And you, like she just said earlier, like, I just couldn't, like she had to like get herself, right, healthy, well, like happy, peaceful, and then now she shared with me the other day, like she is now ready, right, because she's done this, being by herself, reflecting, that most people got forced into during the pandemic well before, right? So she was well prepared to do all the things that were like a shock to most of us, right? So if that kind of adds on from like another outside perspective watching.
I want to kind of go back to for a second. I believe Denzel asked me what my household was like. So just to bring you back to that point, and you may not understand, because again, I'm coming from a very humanistic psychology. I'm going back to Freud. I'm really psychology based. So I'm really of the mind. But we talked about household, and I believe that whether or not you can see it, every bit of your childhood and everything that your parents and the people before them dealt with, you're a product of that. And so I was saying how I had a very disciplined, very strict household on one end, and on the other end, it was very free. And so it was a juggling act. And then all of a sudden it was just the one thing. So it was two very different extremes. I spoke about being Geminian. And so in terms of astrology, Gemini are the twins. And often twins it's two different sides. It's like a mirror. So just to connect all of the different things. And while I write and you can read it very literally, I'm always writing from a very metaphorical place. So again, I can definitely see how loving oneself so much, and like if you're egotistical, I can see how if you're being egotistical, how it can kind of take away from the goal. But I like to call myself a peaceful little radical. Mm-hmm. And so I think now I've kind of been able to find that balance. But I do agree with you in the fact that if someone is only focused on themselves, they can take away from the collective goal, which is why I left my job and did me for a while.
And I can understand that. That's a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
And with my last question about the final article and about the final takeaway. Mm-hmm. It's the final thing. It says, love yourself. When you love yourself, it's only natural for you to spread it. It's the most contagious disease in the world, in its rare form. We'll never need a mask or a vaccine for it. That's a discomfort you want to grow in forever. Mm-hmm. The comfort of being uncomfortable. A lot of successful people speak on that little sentence right there. That's the discomfort you want to grow in. You know, the discomfort you want to grow in, being uncomfortable, creating your best self, you know? So I would ask you, how is knowing yourself, and just getting deeper into that metaphor, how is knowing yourself a disease? How do you spread awareness in that? Right now, especially in this social media time, on Twitter, Instagram, via social media, you know, the self-love and mental health awareness is being raised like no other. So me stating that for people who want to, you know, I feel I'm a pretty self-aware person. I see you yourself are a pretty self-aware person. So how do you help others become self-aware about themselves? What things would you tell them to do? You know, because some people just don't understand how to be alone. Some people don't understand it. People don't, you know, just know what to do. So what would you recommend? How do you raise awareness in that?
I write, and I'm myself. I live my life. So again, the same way I'm a a product of all of these different people. I don't put myself in a box. I am myself, and I think that is raising awareness for the collective, because there are people that resonate with me for the fact that we're people of different colors and different ethnicities and different backgrounds, and I'm guessing from different cities, perhaps states, all sitting here talking. The fact that Ms. Hanson and I connected, most people would look at us and think that we're totally different people, but we were a rock for each other in our teaching situation when we were together. So I think that the best way to raise awareness on anything is being yourself. And even who I was years ago, that was raising awareness on whatever level I was on. You being you right now is raising awareness, because you read yourself a certain way, but you're going to evolve. So how old are you all? 18, 19?
18.
Y'all are kids, man. And I mean that respectfully. I mean it as respectfully. Respect, hashtag respectfully. I mean it respectfully. You're kids. Miss Hanson is a kid. I'm a kid. Your mama's a kid. Your daddy, your grandmama, your auntie, kids. And I believe that we should never stop growing. We should never stop learning. But I think sometimes we get in this mindset where, and especially as intellectuals, people who are afforded the privilege to go to college, whether you had to get scholarships, whether you had to work for it, whatever, it is a privilege to go to college. It's a beautiful thing. But I think that often we can be so much in our intellectual thoughts that we don't take a second, which that was me leaving my job, taking a second to really look at the holistic person. Who am I outside of this suit? Who am I outside of this collared shirt? Who am I outside of the straight hair if my hair is not naturally straight? Who am I? And so I think that literally being yourself, who you are right now, your body language says a lot about you. The way that you speak says a lot about you. The way you wear your hair says a lot about you. Your beliefs say a lot about you. So every time you open your mouth, you're raising awareness. It's just a matter of how expanded a person's perspective is to read what you're raising awareness on.
So, I'm sorry, Ms. Hanson, are we done?
We're going with the flow, because I don't like to stop things when it's just flowing. So you're good.
So, would you agree that perspectives are everything?
Ooh, I tweeted about this a month ago. This is a thing.
Perspectiveness, and then I also want to get back on that fearlessness thing. On fearlessness, I also want to get back on that.
Okay, so let's focus on perspective first. Let's focus on one thing. I think perspective is everything, but understanding that your perspective is not everything is the goal. There are 6 different perspectives in here, and honestly, I would argue that there are probably at least 36 perspectives here, because you're not just, while you are a whole person, I think that what makes me me is that I admit that my path is not straight and narrow. Oh, you felt that? You felt that? I admit that my path is not straight and narrow. And for some people it is. And I thought that once upon a time mine was, that much of my journey has been about figuring out what I don't like, because I faked it for so long. I didn't even know I was faking it, because I was a people pleaser. I didn't know I was faking it. So perspective is everything. Yours is not. Mine is not. Jada's is not. Molly's is not. Denzel's is not. Hanson's is not.
3 sides to the truth.
But always. So I speak my truth. Somebody may be offended by it, but I'm like, I'm just speaking mine. And I could be offended because they felt like I was trying to offend them, and I'm like, no, I was just expressing my feelings, which I never do. You know what I mean? And it's a cycle where somebody is going to be misunderstood, and that's why you just have to live anyway. And the people who do understand, that's your collective. And so we have a Malcolm, an MLK, and an Obama. Different. You can look at them the same path, different. Same mission, and the fact that I'm wearing all 3 of them on my shirt speaks to me being me is a collective in itself.
So with that collective and different perspectives, I kind of want to bring us back. So I want to we've had so much opportunity, right, to hear from Miss Bennett, and now she gets to do the same thing with you all and hear from your perspectives and, you know, things that she gets to freely ask you all about. So now it is her turn, right? So let's go ahead and give her the floor to learn about y'all.
First, I just want to know where each of you is from. I don't know if you want to go around and just say. East and then.
I'm from Nashville.
Oh, Denzel, you're from Nashville. What?
I'm from
Denzel, I'm sorry. I'll come back.
I went to Beach High School in Hendersonville.
Okay, Hendersonville.
Yeah.
Jada.
I'm from Memphis.
Come on, Memphis. What high school?
I went to Whitehaven.
Come on, Whitehaven. I know a lot of people that went to Whitehaven. I went to UT Knoxville, and a lot of scholarships for people that look like us coming from Memphis, from Nashville, from promise schools. That's how a lot of people get to school. Most of my close friends are from Memphis. Marquice, where you from?
I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland?
Yeah, I'm from up north. I went to Cleveland Central Catholic High School, home of the Iron Man.
What, do you mind me asking, what were the demographics of your school?
Primarily Black. My whole life, I've been primarily in Black demographic.
Are you involved in the church?
Huh?
Are you involved in the church? Did you grow up in the church?
No.
Who is if you had an idol, who would your idol be? Who do you look up to?
Great question. I couldn't say one person. I couldn't dumb it down to one person.
Name a couple.
Dr. Malcolm X.
I feel it. I feel that.
Fred Hampton.
I feel that. Okay.
I like real revolutionaries. I like Johnny Cochran. He's one of my biggest.
Wait a minute. Hold on, wait a minute. Okay, keep going.
Malcolm, Fred, Johnny. Marcus Garvey. James Baldwin. Even Thomas Sowell. A lot of people probably are familiar with him. Thomas Sowell. And then on the other side of the spectrum, I like Susan. I can't pronounce his name. I pronounce it wrong, but it's like Susan, Nicholas Machiavelli. And then the other people I don't want to get into because it gets kind of, you'll think like what, but it's just for different.
What music do you listen to?
Everything.
Who primarily?
It just really depends on my mood. I would say.
Is your hair locked?
Yes, ma'am. It depends on my mood. I sometimes could go from throwback to Tupac, Biggie.
You said it. I got you. Got you. Last question for you. When's your birthday?
July 20th. I'm a Cancer.
Okay. Molly.
Hi. I'm from, I'll just say Nashville. I grew up in a town called Fairview, and I live in Dixon right now. It's about like 35, 40 minutes away.
Country girl, I got you.
Yeah.
When's your birthday, Molly?
It's October 13th, 2000. So I'm a Libra.
Love that. I like that. I like that. What music do you listen to, Molly?
I really like more like almost kind of like indie, and I like a lot of rock music too.
Do you like, when you say indie and rock, do you have like older rock faves?
Yeah, I like Motley Crue. I like Motley Crue and Def Leppard.
I feel you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's a reason all of us are. I'm going to circle back around Denzel and then Jada. I want to know what music you listen to when your birthdays are.
My birthday is December 12th. I'm a Sagittarius.
Your birthday's the day before my brother. I thought about my brother when you said Last Chance U. Whew. What music do you listen to?
Mainly rap, but like,
Who do you like? Don't shy away. I listen to music. That's why I was saying, I don't know if you see my body language, like my leg is halfway crossed. I'm comfortable. I want you to be comfortable because I think that your music taste says a lot about you. It says a lot outside of who you are in the classroom and asking questions. I'm so much more interested in what is happening outside because it affects who you are as a student inside. So who do you listen to, Denzel?
I listen to a lot of NBA YoungBoy, but not like all the crazy type songs.
It's okay if you do. I'm just asking.
He gets like more deeper in most of his lyrics. Like if you really listen to it. And
He speaks of struggle. I used to listen to, I don't know if you're familiar with Boosty, Lil Boosty.
Yeah.
When I was in middle school, NBA YoungBoy is like the progression. He's the progression of, he's the new age.
Younger generation.
He's the younger generation of it. So a lot of my middle schoolers, the last grade I taught was 8th grade, they loved NBA YoungBoy. And I don't get with a lot of it, but I understand why they do because I understand where I was at that time. Anybody else that you listen to primarily?
I like to listen to like a lot of my friends make music and they're like pretty decent.
That's dope.
Not decent. We more than decent.
I like that. I like that you have the confidence in that. Does it make you happy to make music? Yeah.
Yeah, just like listening to my friends because they really work hard, but like their hard work's gonna pay off eventually. Cause like their music is like things you would hear on the radio, like doing millions of streams.
If you believe in it now, keep believing in it if they're truly your friends, but get your degree to use everything. Jada, talk to me.
My birthday is June 14th, and I'm a Gemini.
Oh,
So when you
no
mentioned,
wonder.
huh?
No wonder. I feel you.
When you mentioned Gemini, I was like, yeah. When you were talking about your parents, like in your household, you were raised like two different, you know. Most people wouldn't think that I'm a Gemini just by looking at me, and because they like to relate it to crazy and just moody. But I'm not really moody. I'm really
this level thoughts, my dear.
Yeah.
They go in every different direction. Your mind thinks, your mind moves really quickly. And so when you speak, it will come out in a way that is outlandish to somebody else who wasn't there for the entire thought.
Yes. And are you a Gemini too?
I study my chart, so I'm a little deeper into astrology. That's been part of I've studied lots of different spiritual or esoteric topics. Mm-hmm. So I am a Gemini moon. So that means that in my emotions and the way I feel things out is very Geminian.
Okay. Because, when you said that you were empath, I was like, yeah, that sounds familiar.
I don't know. Not to use the word empath. I just try to say, like, I empathize really well because I know different people, again, labels.
Labels.
And I'm just me. Mm-hmm. And you can read empath from sensory deprivation or sensory, sensitivity. You can look at it from a lot of different angles. Who do you listen to, Jada?
I listen to a lot of different things, but I would say the artist that I listen to the most it's between Janae or it's like, I don't know, because I listen to a lot of stuff like at one time.
What's your instinct? Who are you gonna say?
I would say
First person that comes to your mind.
Ariana Grande.
Don't shy away from that. I love Ari. I thought that I started listening to her with Sweetener.
Yeah.
And I think that Positions is beautiful.
When I tell you, I used to like, when I was like in middle school, I used to love Ariana Grande. Like when she came from Victoria's, from that little area, like people were starting to get to know her from there. And like I saw her on Victoria's, like when she sang that note, I was like, she's gonna be something.
She
like,
can really sing, yeah.
Yeah. So
do you sing?
What did you say?
Do you sing? You do?
A little bit, yeah. Just a little bit.
I know you do. It makes you happy. You feel good.
Yeah. I love music. I listen to
process your emotions through your music. I know because you listen to Janae and Ari.
Yes.
Don't stop. Do you write?
I got into it just a little bit, but I haven't really flourished in it.
When you listen to music, start writing.
Okay.
I would love to know a whole lot more about you, but I know we're way over time.
Right.
But I would say that I'm really glad that I got to speak with each of you. I'm glad I got to learn a little bit more about you. And I know I didn't get to really dive deep, but I think learning about your music interests are great. And I can see why each of us are in this group, why we're here. And I don't know if Ms. Hanson has told you about her music choice, but your teacher your teacher is great. And I don't want take advantage of every opportunity you have to learn from her and know that she's learning from you too. Have any of you studied Jane Elliott? That is Miss Hanson. She will not speak. I have chills. She will not speak on herself in that way, but she is new age Jane Elliott and just pulling in the different beliefs. And I don't underestimate your teacher. She's great. And make sure that, you take what you can from her and take what you can from each other. Because again, the fact that we're all sitting here, by your music choice, I can tell why we're here, by the body language, by each of your hair. Like Jada, our hair's a little bit alike today. Yeah, I actually started to wear my bang in my face. I started to wear it that way. Molly, you remind me of me when I'm your music choice speaks to me and where I am right now. And even being a country girl, very free spirited. And the same way in terms of how I talked about Jada's thoughts, you're there too, but you really, the way I talk about myself being a peaceful little radical, that's you.
I was gonna say, Molly doesn't say a lot. When she does, it is powerful, and her writing is very articulate.
Okay, wait, I have one last question for everybody because this is what I meant to ask. I'm so sorry because we're gonna have to go. Molly, what's your major?
It's dental hygiene.
Do you have other passions?
Well, I mean, now that I'm kind of English now, I actually like really writing because I never wrote that much. Homeschool, so I like, but I guess in my online courses for high school. But I mean, I guess now that I'm learning a lot more about writing and I'm actually applying myself to it, I really like it.
And she's a good writer too.
Molly?
Yeah.
Write down why you want to be a dental hygienist and write down why you love writing. Analyze the two. Mm-hmm. If they both make sense, do both. Jada, what's your major?
My major is nursing.
Why? Science.
What did you say?
You like science?
Yes, for the most part. Okay. I'm not gonna say I'm a nerd about science or anything, but I do like science. I'm interested in science, and I like math too.
You like math? What do you love to do, Jada?
See, when you asked Molly that, I was like, oh man. Okay, so I actually am interested in fashion. I love fashion.
Did you have another school you were choosing beside TSU, Jada?
No,
It was TSU.
if we're being honest, I didn't really have like a dream school.
Mm-hmm.
It was more so like, okay, if the school is giving me a full ride and it's a decent school and it's undergrad, okay, cool. Like, I mean, it's nothing really, and they just got accredited this year, I believe, for nursing. So I'm, I'm content with it. I will be okay with this until my graduate, like my getting my master's or, you know.
Okay. Did you grow up babysitting
Off
or
and
taking
on,
care of people?
off and on, yeah. Because my grandmother has a daycare, and I actually helped her a lot with that. And I have a little cousin, but I'm primarily the baby in my family, so I just help my grandmother at her daycare.
A lot of times the baby of the family, and my mom is the baby of her family. A lot of times the baby of the family, especially if as women, and if you watch, you spoke of your grandmother, I'm guessing she's a really strong figure. She's a business owner. Um, mm,
I own my own business as well.
I was gonna say she also is an entrepreneur herself.
My dad's an entrepreneur.
what's his business in?
He has multiple barbershops. He has a trucking business, and he also has a barber school.
You're good at math?
Mm-hmm.
Look into business. Just look into it.
Okay.
Nursing, great, phenomenal. Security.
Yeah.
If that's your passion, cool. But you just told me that it's a content and it's okay until you sound like a businesswoman to me. And if you already have one, you sound like you got a pretty good footing about where you want to go. Trust yourself. Denzel. Okay. And we're finna wrap it up. I'm just excited to talk to y'all. I love this. Denzel, what's your major?
Business administration.
Ooh. You wanna do you make the music or your friends make the music?
My
Or
friend.
both? Your friends make the music.
I might start into it. I don't know.
You're the executive.
Yeah.
Of the label.
Yeah, I want to because they need it.
Did you write it down?
What do you mean by write it down?
Do you write it all?
Manifest your goals. Write down your goals.
Oh,
I try not to use buzzwords. I just try to, but yeah, do you write anything down? The same way your friends write music. What's your outlet?
I guess I really don't have an outlet. I mean, I don't know. I guess I talk about it with my friends, but I never really write it down.
You sound really passionate about helping others. That is a skill. Like, I'm sitting here, I'm not getting paid for this. I just want to talk to you guys. It's a skill to see things in others. You just said what you see in your friends, and you're going into business administration. I think that can be great for you. And I'm not going to say, oh, it's going to be the money maker. I think it can be great for you. And if you love what you do, the money will come. So that's cool. I love that you're so supportive of your friends. I hope you're just as supportive of yourself.
Yeah.
Tell me your birthday again.
December 12th.
All right. Yeah. You're a little firecracker. Last chance, you played sports?
I played basketball.
What position?
Shooting guard.
When I played, that was me. It was elementary school, so don't ask me questions. But
Yeah.
okay. All right, Marquice, what's your major?
Political science and business administration.
Baby Malcolm. It's beautiful. I'm kidding. What do you want to do?
I want to be a corporate lawyer. lobbyist, senator. I really want to just get into politics.
Do you have plans like grad school or any of that, or?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, you always got a plan until, life hit.
When you talked about me going with the flow, I'm like, you got a plan. You have intentions, my friend.
Until life hit, yeah.
Do you mind me asking, or that's too much? In
No,
terms of grad school, what way do you want to go?
I'm still thinking. I know I'm going to law school. That's just the fact. I'm going to law school. I don't know whether I want to go to a PWI or HBCU. That's really my biggest crossroad when it comes to that. But it's really like right now I'm focused on more of the business side, learning the laws, learning the basis. That way I could create some businesses while I'm in college, and then while I'm in law school, I got passive income. That way I can help pay for my, not as many loans, not as much stuff to get in debt in law school. Then after that, depending on, actually no, because I'm running my business is not for me, really, it's for my family. So it just depends, I'm for the people. I'm not really for myself.
Okay. The number one major to get into law school?
I saw you could do economics.
Do you know what the top one is?
No.
English. Technical writing, English.
It's a lot of writing.
It's a lot of writing. My best friend is phenomenal. She is Associate General Counsel of Oak Ridge something. Beautiful company, amazing company in Knoxville where we went to school. She graduated from UT Law, and I used to edit her papers her freshman year. And she majored in psych, I believe, yeah. But writing, I used to edit her papers, and I can see now, like she's now writing for her company. But writing helps you to see what is written in between the words, and it helps you to speak less. Because with being a lawyer, you're gonna have to do a lot of listening, a lot of recording, and you're a great orator. You speak well, but work on what's unwritten, what's unsaid, because there's so much there, and that's going to be how you are the Johnny Cochran who gets the OJ off. Or whatever, whatever path you want to go to in law. But I can see it. I'm excited for all of you. Thank you for allowing me to get in your business for a second. And I've enjoyed talking to you all.
Thank you so much for coming today. Thank you. And I know that they got so much out of it, and all the students who are watching are going to get so much out of it. And I look forward to doing more projects like this, and hopefully you'll continue to get more. I know that you said you've been doing podcasts and lots of different types of projects. So I'm excited to see that continue.
Wait, you have a podcast?
I don't have a personal podcast, but I've been a guest on some of my friends' podcasts. So the people that I went to college with, and one of my friends, he majored in broadcast journalism, and he works for Fox News New Orleans, but he has a podcast on the side, and it's about film analysis, but it's called Real Connects. So you can find it on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to your podcast. But we spoke about my favorite movies, Love Jones, and we spoke about The Photograph. And similar to how I speak to you all, like from a perspective of like my own experiences, it's deeply rooted in psychology. And when I was in school, I had the opportunity to be in a class called African American Psychology at the university I went to. And so we had a professor where we were really able to dive deep. And even in my grad program as a teacher, I've always focused on African American student motivation, but there are so many different pockets to that. And so his podcast in itself helps intertwine that, but through film. It's beautiful. You should listen.
And what is it called again?
Real Connects.
Broken it. Okay. Thank you.
RL.
All right. Well, thank you all again for coming today. And it was just so amazing getting to hear all the different perspectives, all the different answers, and what they led to was even more beautiful and enlightening. So I look forward to doing this again. Thank y'all. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Weekend.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.